joining us right here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line to tell us about that one time that Belichick kicked Vinatieri in practice is Willie McGinest. How are you, Willie? You there?
I am. How are you guys?
That was a strange time, right? When Belichick just went up and kicked Vinatieri and said, "Why don't you make more kicks?" That happened, right? Back in the day.
You know what's funny, man? That actually happened. It wasn't Belichick though. It was Parcells, and he used to do some little funny things to Adam to try to throw him off.
Come on.
Like before he kicked field goals, and he would go up, throw grass in front of him, kick the dirt in front of him, do little stuff to kind of throw him off before his field goals, because we would always have something pending on the long field goal in practice,
Yeah.
Whether it was time off, no meeting or whatever, but it was in a loving way. I don't think it was anything, any harm meant to it. It was just a distraction, I would say, to try to throw him off.
Because, I guess you just got to, in some way, shape, or form, make adversity part of practice, because that's what's going to happen when real games happen. So that's stuff I've heard about from coaching. All this other stuff that is coming out of Jacksonville through our colleague Tom Pelissero over the weekend, and then obviously in the months before it, and then this past couple of 24 hours that led to Urban Meyer's firing. I'll give you the floor, Willie McGinest. What do you think about all of this when asked, as I am?
Not being in the building, I'm sure there's things that go on, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things that'll probably surface. But I think there's a code of conduct that you got to, represent yourself in a certain way. And I think that's what, Mr. Khan was talking about when, after the bar incident happened, he said, I expect you to hold yourself and be accountable, and represent the organization, the team, yourself in a certain light. And I think when you're not winning games, Rich, when things are surfacing like that, people in the building are not happy. When you possibly have lost the locker room, I can't say that's what happened, but if you possibly have lost the locker room and your voice no longer happens, and the players are not following you, it's bad. It's bad, and it's hard to continue to move on this way. And when you start to factor in all the different things that were happening on top of not winning football games, it pretty much makes it tough to move to continue on the way you have been.
Well, let me just ask this question, Willie, because, was there a time before Brady became Brady in 2001, in that 2000 season, when it was difficult to buy what Belichick might have been selling in the manner in which he was selling it, because he had yet to win anything and Parcells was Parcells? Was there ever a moment where the Patriot Way might have been, up in the air before it was fully formed? Willie, did that ever happen?
Belichick's first year, I think we went 5-11.
Mm-hmm.
We went 6-10, whatever the record was. But we were losing a lot of really, really close games, and we were competing. And I think as a mature veteran or a guy in the locker room, you understand a rebuild, and when things are changing, a changing of the guard, you got to be able to implement a system, implement players that believe in a system that fit what you're trying to do. And, Belichick made it clear that he was going to keep a certain type of player that fit that. And outside of that, he was going to build through the draft and free agency to make up, the nucleus and what he wanted as a team. So we bought into that because he was on that staff before. We knew he had success, with the Giants, and he also had success in Cleveland. I played against him in Cleveland. They beat us in the playoffs. So it takes time, but it also, you have to see things working. Players have to buy in. They got to believe. The preparation, the hard work, everything that goes into it, you got to see the fruit of the labor. And I think although we didn't have a great record, we were losing close games on little things that we can fix and change. So after the season, I was the biggest advocate going out to guys that were free agents like Roman Pfeiffer that I worked out with and telling them, look, man, you're a free agent. Come to New England. We got something special cooking. Trust me, man, we're going to be good. And he's like, like, man, your record wasn't good. I might want to stay home, play for the Raiders, whatever the case may be. But he finally listened to me, and his agent reached out, and he had a conversation, and it was the best thing that ever happened to his career. You know, he won multiple Super Bowls the very next year. We went in the Super Bowl mode, and all those guys that listened and believed were a part of that and made it special. You know, so I think there's an opportunity if the message is right, if things are moving in the right direction, if the atmosphere is clear, if the players can buy into that. I do think you don't have to have a winning record to get things turned around.
Yeah, Brockman, read him those numbers to refresh his memory.
Yeah, Willie. So 5-11 in 2000, but 9 of the losses by 1 score.
9 of the 11 by 1 score.
There you go.
1 score. So how often is it, though, in the NFL where game over, your team that's successful, which you've been on more than most, and then the other team that's not, you know, towards the end of a season comes up and says, you have no idea what's going on over here, and they unburden themselves to you after a game? How often does that happen in the NFL?
A lot. It's a lot. Like, I talk to a lot of players across the league now, and you know, my relationship with those guys are special, so I don't want to blow anybody up.
Of course.
But there's teams that are losing now, and I talk to some of the players, and they're like, we have no idea what's going on. You got guys that, you know, going in different directions. The coaches are all over the place. Like, it's not a team. You know, I was a part of that in Cleveland, you know, from my personal experience. You had a small group of guys that wanted to win, that was doing everything they possibly could do to win football games. Other guys are going out, partying, wouldn't study, wouldn't go to film, coming into meetings late. You know, we get beat by 25 points. They go out and party that night. The losses didn't mean anything to them. It's evident. And we had a great coach who come from a winning background in Romeo Crennel. He knew how to win. It's just we didn't have enough mature guys to buy into it, you know. And, you know, he was handcuffed by the GM at the time where he couldn't go out and just grab those type of players that he wanted to bring in because he didn't have the power to do that. So, you know, there's a lot of things that factor into it, Rich, but the guys in the locker room know. You know, the coaches know. And if they're not all buying in, if guys are talking behind each other's back, if the coaches ain't on the same page and there's no cohesiveness and guys aren't together and the message, you know, isn't fluid throughout the building, everybody's on the same page, it's not going to work. It's just not. You can have the best system in the world, whatever it is. If the players don't buy into it, it's not going to work at all.
Willie McGinest, my colleague from the NFL Network here on the Rich Eisen Show, 3-time Super Bowl champion. All right, anybody who attempts to ask Belichick, does 2021 have any echoes of 2001 to you at all, is going to get the answer of, well, I'm just trying to win this game this week. I'm just moving on to this snap. We're moving on to whatever Cincinnati might be, even though that doesn't mean they're coming off a loss, because that hasn't happened in quite some time. But I'll ask you, do you think he's sitting there thinking there's some echoes of 2001 going on right here when he's sitting back?
I think he's the best at pushing forward. I think he also is the best at recalling what it took that year when you got a young quarterback that doesn't have a lot of experience but has the talent, that won't lose you football games because he plays well within the system, and you can put him in position to play at a high level with the running game, high percentage throws, play action, which all those things you see from Mac Jones, you saw from Tom Brady, and a great defense and great special teams that gives this offense multiple opportunities because they turn the ball over and they give you great field position and special teams. All those things I named were the same makeup we had in 2001 if you look at that team. We didn't need the quarterback to go out and throw for 400 yards a game. We had a running game. We had really good coordinators that knew how to put him in position. He did not turn the football over, you know, good decision maker, put his team in the best situation to win football games. The defense went out there. That was our foundation. We took the ball away. You know, we didn't give up a lot of points. Guess what? They're number one in the league in points. They're only giving up 10 points a game. They're one of the top teams in turnovers. They can get after the quarterback. So all those things mirror each other from that season to this season. May not say it, But if you're looking at it and if you're trying to navigate the waters now in the league and play a certain way, it's kind of identical.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that's missing is that the other quarterback in the equation that year was still there. And as a matter of fact, Drew Bledsoe won the AFC Championship game that day when Brady got hurt. And the other quarterback in this equation got cut prior to the season. I mean, other than that, the similarities to me are quite eerie. And that year, it was all like, yeah, he's doing so great. That's terrific. That's great. I mean, you know, are they going to really make the playoffs? Then, you know, you won your last 4 games of the regular season and you make the playoffs. Yeah, but is he going to really win this playoff game in the snow? Yeah, is he going to really go and do this one? And even all the way down to the Super Bowl, John Madden's like, yeah, they got to take a knee. They're not going to go try and win the game right here. I mean, until we kept saying it over and over again until the confetti came down and Tom had his hands on his head and you were celebrating, you know. And I'm wondering if the same thing's happening right now in front of me.
Underdog all the way to the end, Rich.
You know,
and it took a lot of special things to happen that year. You know, there were a lot of things in place, a lot of motivation. You know, a big motivation for us that year was 9/11 as well. That made us want to be a team. Put team, you know, really taught us what team over individualism was. We wanted to do something special, you know, for all those that have fallen and risked their lives in that situation. You know, our quarterback coach, you know, had passed away. There's a lot of underlying things that motivated and came together to really give us what we needed to go forward. And it was just a special year. So I'm saying it's not a quite the duplication of what it was, but when you look at the team and the situation they're in and the opportunity that they have, they're right in line with it. You know, they're right in line with it. It's just how they play the game and what they do and how these coaches do a fantastic job of putting them in position and knowing their personnel, knowing what they have and how they have to play. And that was you can look at the Bills game. This is how we have to play.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be anybody else or do anything else. This is what we do. And I think that's why the Patriot Way was created, because it's always been about what this team and organization needs to do to win games and not try to follow what everybody else around the league is doing.
Yeah, especially against a specific opponent whose weakness might be this, and it's different than the weakness of the team we just beat the week before, so we'll just change what we need to do with the same personnel to go face the other team's weakness. And it's really unbelievable. It really, really is. And now, you know, it kind of looks, Willie, like, you know, the football gods want the Patriots to face Tom Brady. You know, it kind of feels that way to me, Willie.
Who do you root for, Willie, if that happens?
Don't put him in that position, Chris. Come on.
Willie knows.
No, I root for Tom no matter what, and I root for my Patriots no matter what.
So he'll just sit that one out.
You know,
He'll sit out.
If the stars align, you know, I'm a Patriot until I go. Always. And the funny thing is, no matter who's playing in the Super Bowl, I always root for the AFC because I was the AFC guy. But if the Patriots are in, I'm gonna support them. But I gotta call it like I see it though. Like if I see matchup problems or things that are off, or whatever the case may be, I'm not gonna change and lose my credibility when it comes to my analysis.
Good for you,
you know,
Willie.
when it comes to that.
Yes.
But I always root for my brother Tom, and I'm a Patriot for life, so I'm always gonna root for the Patriots.
I got to tell you, Willie, before I let you go, a quote that he gave to Sports Illustrated when he won, rightfully, Sports Person of the Year, when he said that winning is now more of a relief to him than anything else, that gave me a little bit of pause. Like, you know, like that's what you hear when people start thinking about the end. You know, I'm wondering what you think of when you hear the quote of, like, when we lose, it's depressing. When we win, it's a relief. Not like the joy, the happiness, it's a relief. What do you think he means by that? What's going on between his temples, if you can?
I think there's so much that goes into winning, and whether it's doubt, whether it's the work you have to put in, whether it's things you have to overcome, it is kind of like a relief, you know? The fun part is Sundays. A lot of people don't see all the work that goes into it before you get there, and that's where all the work happens. The Sunday is the kind of the relief, relax, let it all go, let's party, let's have a great time. That's your reward for everything that you put into it. So I think from a guy like that expects so much of himself that during practice, whatever it is, he's always doing more. And to get that win, it's just like a relief. The pressure's off you. You've accomplished. Okay, now you got to forget about that, enjoy it for a quick minute, and start all over again. So it's about guys of his stature and that level putting so much pressure on yourself in every single way and listening to what everybody is saying and trying to maintain a certain amount of focus and play at a high level at what people say you couldn't do, but 5 years ago said you should have probably retired. Now you're still, at the top of your game and maintaining that. I just think that's what it is, Rich.
All right, Willie, thanks for the call. Good to see you whenever I run into you the halls of NFL Network. Love to have you here in person, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Thanks for the time, Willie. Greatly appreciate it.
You got it, man. Love you guys.
Right back at you. Love you, too. That's Willie McGinest, everybody. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.